Cinnamate is a lifting formula, lifting our mental and physical energy, sharpening our focus, and doing much of that through improved digestion, including blood sugar and the plant-sourced um, trace minerals such as chromium and others that are found in high concentration in a couple of the ingredients in the product. Um, Last week we talked about the first ingredient from our Fab Five, and the reason we call it Fab Five is because really each one of these ingredients individually would make a very impactful herbal program and would do anyone a world of good, both physically and mentally and emotionally. But we've got a combination of all five in the way we've formulated this product. And we spent our time last week on yerba mate. In summary, one of the things to know about yerba mate is if you think you're familiar with it and you've heard some things about it, that's probably just the tip of the iceberg. It's just really getting the attention that it deserves here in the U.S. and a great deal of that attention, both in terms of selling and seeing it supplied in retail shops, uh, is happening in that regard in a lot of popular literature. But I think the real story is happening in the fact that a multitude of new studies are being carried out, because it is true, Cinnamate has over, I think one study I read said 188 beneficial plant compounds. The reason there's some discrepancy here is that they've actually discovered a few new, we mentioned last week, 2 new saponins that they discovered as part of their study in yerba mate. So that herb in itself really merits plenty. If you love to search the internet and read, you probably would serve yourself well looking further into yerba mate. We're going to move now onto the cinnamon, which is another key ingredient. In fact, we've got in the name of the product itself, Cinnamate, that cinnamon and yerba mate marriage we talked about last week. I think that many people have heard that there are recent studies showing this surprising ability of cinnamon, and especially standardized standardized extracts of cinnamon to extend the utilization of insulin in the blood. But other studies, and some of them the same study, will also show that it will reduce levels of blood sugar both within and without the normal range. We will mostly talk about it, maintaining ourselves in the normal range. But some of those studies have happened with patients, with blood sugar outside that normal range. What you may not have been aware of in terms of cinnamon is that it also supports healthy cholesterol levels in the blood. A particular study that we're citing here in 2003 in diabetes care, patients took 1, 3, or 6 grams of cinnamon per day, and they showed a significant reduction. It was something like around 25%, some as high as 30% reduction, not just in LDL, also triglyceride count, and also total cholesterol. And these were people that had type 2 diabetes that were part of the study. So, very powerful stuff with cinnamon, definitely raising eyebrows and getting more people utilizing it. In fact, I did get one question a week ago. There's a version of cinnamon that a lot of people take, and when you take too much, there's talk about it being toxic for the body or not good for you. I think so. Let's move and talk about some of the other important components of this synergy. And the next one is nopal cactus. This is one where I can talk about really a couple of decades of pretty significant personal use. I can honestly tell people nopal cactus is one of the 5 or 6 herbs that has made the biggest difference in my life, because I sort of sit there on that borderline blood sugar type 2 diabetes. And my grandpa was that way, and using diet and eating right, he was able to manage that. But nopal cactus is something that to me is part of, especially when I'm traveling and eating foods that I'm not accustomed to, but always after a bigger meal, and certainly if I have more carbohydrates or sugars, what an amazing herb it is, and much more than just blood sugar stabilizer. A couple of articles that we've cited here, you can go in and look through. They talk about the other aspects that are starting to be explored with nopal cactus fruit. It truly is an adaptogen, and I believe in the book that we mentioned in the Soul Vital training, it does get a mention there, and it's mentioned in several other places, just not quite been studied for as many years, coming from this hemisphere, not having that, those centuries and centuries of use in China and India. at least not that I'm aware of. But nopal cactus, yeah, very, very packed with nutrients, amino acids, vitamin A and C. A 2004 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed it to be more effective than vitamin C in oxidative stress on cell walls. So people started to look at nopal as more than just the blood sugar normalizer, but also an immune enhancer, and it's very extremely effective in that regard. Um, it is a very much of a support in digestion, as I mentioned, circulation. I call it a superior herb, which is kind of stealing the Chinese moniker for herbs that you can take daily and really just about in any quantities, because of the broad array of benefits they have. You will find some standardized extracts where they'll try to isolate the key components, but it does much more than just what they've isolated. Broad benefits and really a wonderful addition to this product. There was an interesting study in Sicily where Italian scientists, they pre-treated. Now I don't always love these animal studies any more than anybody, but where somebody else has done this work and we can learn from it, and it helped us kind of improve life for everyone. We'll cite them, but this particular study showed a protective quality with nopal in terms of gastric ulcers, and that's another reason that I personally was interested in it, and something I'd say pretty significant there, and not always associated with nopal cactus. And finally, this Dr. Fernandez, as far as we can tell, has done quite a number, has published more than once on nopal, on prickly pear. And this particular study we're citing, about a third, you're getting close. Well, it looks like a little over a quarter of drop in the total cholesterol levels. So again, now you're back with other blood properties, specifically cholesterol. Also not something that people maybe at first associate with nopal cactus, but it's very effective. And I think there's just one more I wanted to share with you on nopal cactus. This one focuses on some extracts and its properties in terms of it as an anti-inflammatory effect. So again, when you see that together with everything else, you look at it and it truly sort of has the marker of an adaptogenic herb because it has such a broad array of benefits. And always something significant enough that you see scientists wanting to create future studies and kind of get a little more of the specifics there. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next ingredient, banaba leaf. This is something that has been in the news a little bit more recently, so I don't know if the studies will show here or as much will be news to many of you on the webinar tonight, but the results are very impressive for banaba leaf, and we don't ever include an ingredient that is sort of one-dimensional. First of all, don't really believe that any plant is, but some are much broader in their benefits than others. Banaba leaf is broader in its benefits than I think people think. They have found, of course, the corosylic acid is an active, and so they standardize the extracts. Typically in the industry, when you're sourcing this material, that's what you're going to be sourcing. And that's really because of Dr. Judy's studies, multiple studies on banaba leaf, and they were effective enough to convince, I think, even a lot of the real skeptics. When you get results that show a glucose decrease of 20 to 30% in people with type 2 diabetes, and at the same time, healthy people that don't have type 2 don't have their blood glucose level reduced, that's going to raise some eyebrows. So that's the kind of product that we become interested in, because we're interested in daily nutritives and in changing life in that way, and also products that have a more pronounced effect on our mood as well. I threw in this study here, another one of Dr. Judy's studies, where she mentions that same corosylic acid has a tendency to help people toward weight loss. And even though that wasn't a huge number in terms of weight loss, I kind of like that the best. Those tend to be more meaningful when they aren't quick decreases. So, in terms of the nutritional makeup, there are, again, many amino acids. You've seen that theme with really most all of the ingredients in our Cinnamate product. And you've got your antioxidant and inflammatory properties. So once again, we've mixed the whole plant extracts in this formula with certain standardized extracts. The banaba leaf is a standardized extract. Now we'll end with, and by the way, just so everyone knows, we're going to finish. We'll talk about thyme here and finish up with Sinemate, and then we've got some great announcements on the business side with Soul Naturals. So we'll end at the half-hour mark with all of our herbal training, and then we'll go probably another 5 or 10 minutes with some great announcements. So stay on and don't get off the webinar when we get done. All right, thyme. Man, I love thyme, and you know, I'm not going to do any of the thyme jokes because they're too easy, but thyme is important to all of us, and I think it's underrated as an herb. Not to many of you who are probably listening here, but I'm talking about the general population does not really realize the greatness of thyme. I view thyme also as a super herb. It's long been known to have antimicrobial properties, and when you have herbs that way, you're going to look into the pathogenic bacteria. You're going to look into viruses. You're going to look into parasites, and you're going to look into fungus. You're going to look into all the different things that are related there, and certainly studies have been pointed in that direction. It is very rich in overall immune system support, and it is nutrient rich, and it does. It's great fresh. You get some unique benefit when you use it fresh, but it also can be extracted and powdered and be very stable, and that's another reason that we like it. It is high in flavonoids, so you've got your antioxidant properties there, and maybe news to a couple people that it's great for respiratory irritation. The study that we wanted to put in here that might surprise some of you in the Australian Journal of Basic and Applied Sciences, you can see that citation there, is that that thyme shows an interference with the formation of candida. And by the way, we put in parentheses cinnamon in this similar study did as well. But there are a number of studies actually that you can read to that effect where they're starting to look, and this is a fairly recent study. It was just, I'm not sure if it was even a year ago, where they looked at the candida aspect of thyme. And I can't tell you how excited I get looking at these herbs that I would consider sort of keystone herbs that everyone has heard of and many people have a pretty good working knowledge of, that they're underrated in the sense that they do much more than they're just known for, and we kind of get in our minds, oh, thyme is good for this and this, and then we're suddenly finding it's good for much, much more than that. So I love finding these studies, and if you've got any on thyme, I'd love to hear about them as well.